All right. Hey, what's up, guys? Locked in my son's room again. Not that you care, but I point that out because I can hear them screaming downstairs a little bit, so it might show up in the video. I hope not, but anyway. Um, no real business to address in this one. I had a separate video for that, right? Basically, I'm going to try to, as quickly and cogently as possible, walk you through the process that I hope you're all sort of working on yourselves, but I'm going to take it closer to the end game than we have thus far. So, to begin with, if you haven't already, really quickly go to that link, that Wikipedia link. Personally, I would just go to Wikipedia, but I'll put the link up there if you need it. Scroll down to the plot section for Book of Eli. I haven't seen it. Some of you probably have. But don't, I'm not talking about like right at the top, right? I'm saying scroll down, there's a plot section, it's a few paragraphs. Won't take you any time to read, even if you have seen it, because I imagine it's been a while. Read over that, and before I get into what I want to talk about, I want you to take a couple minutes, 5 minutes, jot down any notes, any significant details you happen to notice from that plot, okay? It's pretty detailed, honestly. So much so that I had to take a second to slow down. I was having trouble keeping track of all the names of characters, and then come back. So if you need to pause this, I'm gonna give you a sec. Go pause, go take some notes. Cool. All right. To begin with, I thought let's start with a super easy argument you could make about this movie, right? Easy argument, by the way, is in the way we're going to use it, synonymous with working thesis, okay? Super easy argument. This film strongly suggests that Christianity is foundational to civilization, right? Now, I may not need to explain this, but I will. How did I arrive at that really easy argument? Well, this is a post-apocalyptic film, which means it takes place after an apocalyptic event. So we're post-civilization, right? Apocalypse, everything after that is after civilization. Civilization is fallen. Okay, so if we're in a post-civilization space, a space without civilization, and Eli is carting the Bible around, and he's trying to get to this like library basically to safeguard it, pretty easy argument to make, right? Now, I say that's a working thesis because that's not enough to guide a paper, and you should know that for this one reason. I keep saying it's an easy argument. We have another way that we've talked about easy arguments this semester. There's a specific word for it, actually. It's banal, right? Like it's probably, I'm hoping, as soon as I gave you my working thesis, pretty much all of you, after reading the plot, you're like, yeah, that makes complete sense. Exactly, it does. It's banal. And the problem with that is if that was all you were going to try to do, if you were writing a paper on this film, that'd be a hard thing to write about. Simply, I mean, you'd have one body paragraph where it's like, yeah, he walks around with a Bible and he saves it at the end. You're done, right? It takes no argument. So that's the problem. Well, we can address that though, and I because this is a good working theory, it's a good starting point, right? There's a couple things we can do. Number one, well, above all, we have to build in more complexity. Now, what does that mean? I boiled this down to sort of 2 steps you can take. And again, everything we do in all these videos, we're looking at all these different texts, can be applied to whatever text you're using. Number one, we can think more about what the Bible actually is here. What I mean is, it'd be a very different movie if, for instance, he like just walked around quoting scripture. That it's a different kind of film. It doesn't really mention that he does that here in the synopsis, so at least I imagine it doesn't come up a lot. So how does the Bible function? Does it matter that it's in Braille, that you find out he's blind? What does it mean that they put it in a library at the end? They're kind of safeguarding it for like future generations maybe, something like that. You can think more about how it's handled in the film, yeah? And I have to leave that at a hypothetical because I haven't seen the film. The second thing you can do, and the thing that I can talk about, we can also look for other significant details. So this is why at the top of the video, I had you guys, hopefully, go look over the plot, pick out anything you saw that, might have something to do with this working thesis. It might not, but that you just go hunting, right? I noticed a couple things. Number one, we have to talk about the movie's ending, right? I mean, yeah, Eli dies, and you could argue he kind of sacrifices himself, and so maybe he's a bit of a Christ figure. That's a literary term. You can go look it up, but it's exactly what it sounds like. You know, he's Christ-like. Kind of sounds like he is, maybe, in a way. That could be significant. Yeah, that has a little bit to do with the Bible. Yeah, okay. But beyond that, and it was funny, the student who was writing about this, you know, I talked to him a little bit about his paper. He'd forgotten about this part of the ending. This is super important. What happens to the Bible in the end of the movie? It gets put next to the Tanka, which is the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament for the most part. It gets put on a shelf between that and the Quran, right? That's really important. Like, so here's what I'm saying. Right there, just based on that one moment, we have to reconsider our thesis. Because yes, while the film strongly suggests that Christianity is foundational to civilization, that's not all it does, right? So the way I like to talk about thesis statements like this, and you can do this, you can try this at home, have a good time, is an although statement. An although statement is great because it allows you to keep that working thesis, usually, as long as it's an argument, but usually it's banal. So the way I talk about it is a true thing. So if you say, although, just put it right in front, although the film strongly suggests that Christianity is foundational to civilization, comma, okay, that's going to force you to say what I term a truer thing, a more true thing about the movie. So again, to recap, it's true that the film does suggest Christianity is foundational to civilization. It does that. I don't think anyone would argue against that, which again is the problem. But by putting although on the front, that comma at the end, it forces you to say more. What else does the movie do? And usually, again, this is going to force you to go deeper, think more about the film. This is usually something that will actually require proof, argumentation. So although the film strongly suggests that Christianity is foundational to civilization, just based on that one moment, we can also say it goes further than that. It also suggests that world religions in general, or maybe ancient religions, you figure out how you want to term it. But all of these religions in some way are foundational to civilization. Period. That's the end of that sentence. Now, the other thing you would have to do, though, and this is hard, right? But usually, if you're having to think about something and it takes work, that's a good sign, right? That means you're doing good work. So you would need another sentence after that, which explains why the film thinks these world religions are foundational to civilization. Like, in what way? The student I was talking to suggested maybe like as a moral guide, and it's like maybe, again, this would kind of take seeing the movie. You'd need like details. I find it interesting. I've taught world literature a couple times, right? Like the Hebrew Bible comes first chronologically. The Bible comes second. The Quran comes third. And they're all actually kind of tied back to the same monotheistic God. I don't know how up on the Quran you guys might be. But basically the gist of that was, in a lot of ways, like when the Bible came out, they were like, the Jews are doing it wrong, and that's why you get the New Testament, right? The Quran did the same thing with the Bible. They're like, well, they're getting some stuff wrong, like this. So they're all, in a way, kind of, I'm butchering world religions and I apologize, but in a way they're all looking back to this, to a similar idea, different ways of approaching it. That's kind of interesting, that whole story, that they're all kind of, in a way, part of the same story, sort of. But they put the Bible in between the two chronologically. So that, again, I don't know necessarily where that would tie in with other parts of the film. But these are important questions that now you go back, you look at maybe some scenes, you say, well, Eli says something here, or they talk about the book that he has like this and this scene, right? You want to think about what it is to these people even. That's the first detail I noticed. The second one, what about the bad guy? Carnegie. Do you guys ever take like a social studies class, U.S. history class? I say that knowing that you have, or hoping that you have, Jesus. Who's Carnegie? If you don't know, you're on Wikipedia. Look him up. Carnegie. I believe it's Andrew Carnegie. I should have checked, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. He was, him and Rockefeller and Morgan and all those guys were the big monopoly guys. back in the day. Yeah. And, you know, it's not like people can't be named Carnegie. It's not like maybe the writers of the film just named him that because they thought it was a cool name. It's possible, but given the most famous Carnegie that we know of, and just kind of what he's associated with, which is amassing great wealth, and again, doing it like he was one of the inventors of the monopoly. Like, he made that a thing before the US outlawed it, because it's like stupid, unfair, and hurts people, and, you know, problems. But so he's kind of known as this guy who's all about amassing power and influence and things of that nature. Sound like anybody? Maybe in this movie? Maybe a guy with the same name? Yeah, maybe. So what? Well, again, if we're trying to figure out, if we're trying to define why this film thinks not just Christianity but all world religions are somehow foundational to civilization, they're a good thing, right? Let's baseline it, they're good. Well, then what's bad in the movie? Carnegie's bad. Well, what's bad about him? Everything he does, I mean, he's trying to get the Bible so that he can have it. He's one of the few literate people, right? Interesting, too, how, you know, just that's also a marker of civilization, maybe, being literate. Reading's not important. Sorry. But Carnegie is all about amassing power. We often associate that with wealth, but that's because we have money. This is post-civilization, so I'm assuming there's not really money around. So it's just capital P power. He just wants that. He wants to be in charge. He wants to control people. He's going to use his skills, the fact that he can read, along with this book. He's going to lord that over people, maybe. You know, maybe he'll give them access to this knowledge occasionally, right? But he wants to be in charge. That's exactly what Carnegie was known for. Well, that's put in opposition to Eli. That's put in opposition to the Bible, right? Because that's what Eli is walking around with. But just like we said a couple minutes ago, that's also tied in with these other world religions. It's almost like the dissemination of that knowledge, like the fact that it's locked away in a library, you get the sense that it will one day maybe get kind of put out there and people can access it and know these stories for whatever reason. But just the fact that people are maybe able to do that is important, right? And you have this other guy, Carnegie, who wants to restrict that access, as I say, use it to control people. That is somehow, I mean, obviously not seen as laudable, not seen as maybe foundational to civilization in some way. So that is the crux of our argument. Now that raises several questions, but if we can phrase specifically what it is that's maybe bad about Carnegie, what's in opposition to these world religions, we have our second half of our thesis, right? Our first half is the film although the film strongly suggests Christianity is foundational, it also says these other world religions are, period. That second sentence is they're foundational because they are somehow not what Carnegie is. And here's my explanation of what that is, right? Like, that would be the second part. That's the part you probably have to write the paper to figure out. But the 2 points I just named, right? We're almost done, I promise. That final scene with the Tanka and the Quran and the Bible on the shelf, that's a body paragraph. This thing about Carnegie and his name and the sort of associations, I'm willing to bet you can find a really good scene to express some of the qualities we're talking about. That's another body paragraph. And from there, you're rolling, right? Like, you look at other parts of the movie. I mean, I haven't seen it, so it's hard for me to say. But you're on your way now, and you once you write a few more body paragraphs, you go back, maybe revisit that thesis. You probably have some better ideas, some more specific ideas. Don't forget about your roadmap. Last thing I'll say, and then I'll close it out. This entire time on Coursed In, actually, there's been under the syllabus what I call an analysis template. It very, very quickly runs down the template we talk about for introductions, the template we talk about for body paragraphs. It even has a little note about like including secondary sources, right? We've practiced all this, and hopefully you have your notes. But if you don't, some of you don't ever take notes, which is not a great idea. It's there for you. And if it helps, go look at it, right? You can, for the most part, use it to sort of paint by numbers your way maybe through this final paper, if that helps. Other than that, I hope everyone's well. Trying to just get through the end of the semester. I know that's what I'm doing. That's all I got. I'll catch you later.